I am just finishing off my trip down Highway 1804, although I'm pretty sure I'm off it right now, but I'm not 100% sure because I don't remember. But joining up with Highway 83, which is the important thing about all this, and I feel this need because I can see the response from the microphone. I need to move the microphone a little closer. So, gross noise coming. Alright, so microphone moved. So I'm turning on to Highway 83, and I've got a couple things I want to get in this video. This is just a random mishmash of a little bit of everything. Another one I don't feel like footnoting. But anyway, one thing, that red light I just pulled out on, when I moved to North Dakota, it was not a red light. North Dakota has changed a lot since I moved here. Now, I moved here, let's see, fall of 1999. It's now 2017. So almost 18 years I've lived in this state. When I moved to North Dakota originally, there was nothing in Bismarck north of Menards, which we haven't come to Menards yet, but all of this here, Highway 83, was a 4-lane back then. It was a 4-lane all the way from Bismarck to Minot, and just a bit past the Minot Air Force Base, and then it would turn it into a 2-lane road, which it is still the case. Going south, Highway 83 actually follows the interstate for a while, and I forget which exit. There's a gas station on that exit, though. That's all I remember for sure. But then it'll take you down through Linton and Strasburg, and I can't remember the name of the other town down there. Strasburg, North Dakota, by the way, is home to Lawrence Welk. Lawrence Welk, all of you older listeners may have heard of him. Lawrence Welk got his start in Strasburg, North Dakota. In fact, his old farmstead is an attraction there. Not very attractive. I mean, I went out to it and I just that's it. Yeah. So, but, a little bit of context for Highway 83. And I mention all that because here's more red lights that, by golly, did not used to be here. This state is changing. And depends on the part. One of the things that's happening in this state, since we're talking about changes, is the small towns are getting smaller. Just a second. I need to hit stop for a second. Alright, so I still have that damaged monitor. I'm doing a bunch of recordings all at once. And I was kind of hoping I could make this full screen on a second monitor, but clearly not, so move it back here. Anyway, the state is changing quite a bit. For the most part, small towns are getting smaller. The big towns are getting bigger. Bismarck is definitely getting bigger. Did you notice there was a Walmart we just passed through on the left? And a whole bunch of businesses? Again, when I moved to North Dakota, none of this was here. None of these houses were here. These red lights weren't here. Bismarck has gotten a lot bigger. People don't like to move to small towns. If they move to the small towns that are growing are either in the oil area, although that's changed since the oil prices dropped, or they're close enough to something larger. Like Wilton, North Dakota, has grown. Why has it grown? Because it's close to Bismarck. South Hart, North Dakota has grown. Why has it grown? Well, it's in the oil and close to Dickinson. But for the most part, they're shrinking. I was talking to a guy today who graduated from the high school where I teach back in the 70s. Just a second. I think, yep, that was it. This right here, sorry, and I went past the microphone. This right here is about where Bismarck started back when I moved to the state. But anyway, I was talking to a guy today in my little small town of 1,500 people. He graduated from the school where I teach back in the 70s. I can't remember the year off the top of my head, but 70s. And he graduated, he's told me, in a class of 75. Not year 75, but I mean actual, that was the count of students. Now, our smallest class is 21 kids, which is a small class even for us. Our largest class is 40-some kids. We're just a lot smaller now than we used to be. And that's the reality of all these small towns. People are having fewer kids, and I don't know, the cities just attract more people. There's more jobs there, more opportunities. Housing is more expensive. I actually had the opportunity to teach physics in one of the larger cities in the state a few years ago, and I started investigating what it would cost to live there. And yeah, I would have gotten quite a substantial raise. What I would have had to pay for housing would have more than made up for it. So I'm actually better off in my small town making less money because my housing's a lot cheaper. So, yeah. A lot of these businesses here did not exist. Like there's a grocery store. The lighting on this is terrible, and I'm looking at it through a cracked monitor. But it is. I'm waiting for a box to arrive in the mail. It will be sent off, and I'm going to record a lot of videos until then. But yeah, a lot of this wasn't there. So yeah, Bismarck has gotten bigger, and I was talking to. Well, okay, I wasn't talking to her recently because she's dead. Okay, that was harsh. I used to know a sweet little old lady. She actually was a store owner once along with her husband back in one of the little towns, the first little town I lived in North Dakota. And she grew up in Bismarck, and she was telling me about how basically there was nothing north of the capital. That's her day. You know, I don't know, I don't actually know how old she was, but definitely old enough to be dead now, so. She went to high school in Bismarck right after the Second World War ended. So that gives you a rough idea of her age. We're crossing the interstate here, Interstate 94. But yeah, it just has grown a lot. And you know, some of that's progress. I mean, there's a town west of me of about 100 people. It used to be about the size of the town I live in now. Shrank down thanks... well, to technology. The rail just kind of dried up. So, yeah, too much growth is bad. Too much shrinking is bad. You know, you just kind of have to find that happy place. Oh, ran a yellow light. So I'm going to interrupt myself constantly in this video to point out different features. There actually is quite a lot to see in this video, which is why I'm running at normal speed. You're going to go visit... Well, we're going to take Highway 83 through Bismarck. You'll get to see our capital, for better or for worse. Yeah, do you see the skyscraper? The rectangle thing that's in silhouette to the right side of the screen? That's our capital. It is a big Art Deco box. Not many states have a capital that looks like ours. We are one of a kind. I mean, it's actually kind of nice if you go inside of it. And I once walked with somebody from the basement or did we go from the top down? I forget which way we went. One or the other. We walked all 17 flights of stairs of the building. That is a bit of a workout. In fact, it makes me think. I have my knee problem, which is pretty much means I can't jog anymore. But it's got me thinking... I can walk, and maybe I should make stair climbing part of my walk. And even my semi-modern school has a lot of stairs in it, so maybe that's something to start thinking about as exercise. So I apparently didn't choose to do a close-up of the Capitol building. I'm not 100% sure why, but whatevs, dude. And we're in a nice part of Bismarck here. I kind of wish on this video I'd included the Capital District, but it's one of those things, it's like, you know, how much do you include? How much do you just say, yeah, that's enough? So, next time. Our Capital District, or is it called the Cathedral District? I can't remember. I actually like this neighborhood, too. But there's a district that's near a big Catholic church. It's got some kind of a name like that, and beautiful neighborhood. Gorgeous old homes, gorgeous big trees. It's kind of one of those stately, wealthy neighborhoods in a city. This here, these are actually pretty nice homes also around the Capitol, but they're smaller. And one of the two, well now it's three, one of the high schools in Bismarck is here. This one is Bismarck High. You can't see it yet, but it'll be coming up on your left. Bismarck High is kind of like the inner city Bismarck High School. Bismarck Century, we actually did pass it, but you couldn't see it because it's kind of hidden behind a gas station. Bismarck Century's on the north end of town. And somewhere on the north end of town is Bismarck Legacy. There it is. That's Bismarck High. I know the least about Bismarck Legacy. That's brand new. Bismarck High, this lady that I knew, who's now dead, actually went to school there. And apparently BSC, the Bismarck State College, which is a 2-year school, used to have its campuses in there as well. Back in the day when it was all a lot smaller. So this is actually a pretty nice neighborhood. I mean, Highway 83, so it's big. It's a one-way going south, which we're doing here, although I don't think we're on Highway 83 anymore, come to think of it. This is 7th Avenue, 7th Street. Actually, okay, I'll be honest, I don't ever remember names of streets, especially when they're all numbers. This one, whatever it is, it's a one-way. 1 block to the east is another one-way that goes north. Once you figure that out, Bismarck is easy to navigate. I will admit it was a bit of a puzzlement my first time through Bismarck. But admittedly, I didn't know much about city driving, even though I am from Pennsylvania, which is a story for another time. There is a hospital, 2 hospitals along here. I'm trying to remember what they're all called. There's one to the east here called St. Alexis. The one to the west, I'm drawing a blank what it's called now. It's been through a couple different names. And I actually only took I used to be an EMT also. I'm not just a teacher. I actually only took a patient there once, and it's just not ringing a bell. This here is like the shopping district of Bismarck. And that turning lane was a surprise to me. That was all new. They've actually done a lot to the traffic flow in downtown Bismarck. So good for them. I don't get to Bismarck very often. I don't like Bismarck. There's just nothing there. But anyway, I wanted you to see it. It actually used to have a pretty attractive downtown. There are some shops here, just not the kind of shops I shop at. To the left here, you'll see kind of a Mexican-looking building. That's on purpose. That used to be the old train depot. This used to be a 4-lane. That's changed. Wow. But anyway, the train depot was turned into a Mexican restaurant. But I was actually on this trip here because my plan was to eat lunch there. Yeah, I know. I did stop at the gas station, but I just had like a quick something just because I was super hungry. And it was out of business, so very sad. Was it called Fiesta Villa? I can't remember. Anyway, I was very disappointed by that. Down here further, there used to be a couple really fun antique stores, and fun and antique store don't seem to go together. But I like a lot of old things, not just fountain pens. I love slide rules. I like walking around antique stores. I'm not really into silverware or dishes. I just kind of, but old lab equipment, old books, old tools, slide rules, like I said, fountain pens, those things have always interested me. Alright, I guess I must have decided just to do the circle here. So I'm going to take you down the other part of Bismarck's Main Street. There's like 2 parallel streets. This one is weird. It's still weird, even though they've apparently redone the traffic flow. I've always thought it was weird. Parts of it are one way, parts of it are not. And it's kind of a mystery to figure out which parts are which when you first visit Bismarck. Parts of it have red lights like this, parts of it, stop signs. Just kind of an odd downtown. I have walked around this downtown. It was back before I really got into filming everything. Maybe I should do that again. That might be kind of a fun way to spend a day, some day this summer. Bismarck, I'm less likely to get lost than I did in Rapid City because I spent 3 years an hour's drive away from Bismarck and 3 more years where I'd get down to Bismarck occasionally. And then I also would work in Bismarck from time to time. Just like, for a few days at a time or maybe a week at a time. I had a couple of random jobs, mostly education related. I haven't been doing that a lot lately. The funds for that kind of stuff have dried up a bit. But anyway, I always thought this street, even though there's not a lot on it, was attractive. So I've always liked the look of downtown Bismarck. It's just not a lot of shops in it that are interesting. See, here's one of the one way parts. Um, so yeah, it's just nice to walk around it. And I've actually learned since then. Um, there are actually, even though the shopping isn't much, but I'm not much of a shopper anyway, there are some really good places to eat in downtown Bismarck. Uh, the Peacock Alley is really good. Expensive, but really good. I had food in kind of a diner thing over there. Um, I'm forgetting what all. There's some kind of an Irish themed restaurant. A bunch of really good restaurants. And yeah, so that kind of makes up for a lot. And it makes sense. They're right near the hospitals, so hospital workers will walk over there. Kind of near the Capitol. There's a lot of city offices or state offices in the downtown, so they're all going downtown to eat. So there's actually, the shopping is not that great in Bismarck, but the eating is. Kudos to Bismarck for the eating. By the way, up there on the right, that tall building, that's the Radisson. I've stayed there a number of times working. They have quite the parking garage to go with it. And actually, not 100% sure where it is, but somewhere around here is a parking garage. It's all kind of spirally. I did my first photographic experiment with HDR in it, but I don't really want to go looking for it now, so another thing for me to save for another time that I'll probably forget about. So, no Mexican food for me. Circling out of downtown Bismarck, now trying to cross multiple lanes slowly. Again, not the type of driving I'm used to at all. But there wasn't a lot of traffic at this point, so it wasn't that hard. Now, normally I would stop at the Barnes & Noble in Bismarck, which you can't see yet, but there is a Barnes & Noble. There used to be, I don't know if there still are, but there did used to be 2 used bookstores in Bismarck. One was very paperback-centric. The other one had a wider variety, but it was not as easy to get to, I guess. But anyway, I didn't go do any of that on this trip because I wanted to get home before it was dark. Because I'd already had a long day watching a cross-country meet. So, yeah, I basically wanted to hit... I don't think I went to the mall on this trip. Honestly, I think I just went to the grocery store. I did drop off a whole bunch of recycling, so that's good, because my small town, we can't do that, because we're a small town. We're conservative. So I went to Bismarck to drop it off. There it is. That on the left there, that's the Barnes & Noble. I probably should support it better, but it's so far away. So, honestly, I buy a lot of books online. Because what am I going to do? I mean, I don't live in Bismarck. If I lived in Bismarck, I'd probably spend a fortune on books. But I don't. And that tall, interesting building there on the left, that's I guess a bank. I don't remember. I don't care. Whatever. I have never taken advantage of whatever business that is. So, I don't remember which way. Okay, I went straight ahead. So I'm going to come out here on kind of a main through route. There's actually more to see in Bismarck. I'm going to take you to a couple specific places, but there's a really cool pioneer village thing where they have rescued old buildings from all around the state and made sort of a pioneer town out of them that you can walk through. It's a museum-y thing. Very cool. Right now I'm drawing a blank, but it's also 10:10 at night, so there is that. Let's see. The jail, North Dakota State Jail in Bismarck, that's a place to see. I don't have personal experience with the inside, thank God. Thank me, because I'm not a criminal. But the outside looks pretty cool. Lincoln, North Dakota, I had an interesting experience there once. Let me pause. I actually once got stood up for a date in Lincoln, North Dakota. That was awkward. Honestly, if you're ever going to break up with somebody, maybe tell them before you arrange a date with them and arrange a place to meet, because sitting in the bar and eventually figuring out that, hey, I don't think they're going to show up. By the way, this is where the recycling is. That's not a dumpster. But they've limited the recycling. It's now like newspapers and magazines only or something like that. And probably newspapers for sure. Anyway, yeah, if you're ever going to break up with somebody, tell them. Don't just arrange to meet them and then not meet them there and then call them later and say, yeah, it's just not working for me. And you're like, wow. Because that was a very awkward time sitting there thinking, do I call? Do I just leave? How do I call? Because I still don't own a cell phone. Ugh. So, yeah, that was an awkward day in my life. Anyway, cash-wise, food is where I happen to have come. I grocery shopped here mainly, two reasons. By the way, this pause is me unloading my trunk while I drop the recycling. Cash-wise food, I'm trying to think what all is in Bismarck grocery stores. Mostly it's cash-wise food. There's a couple Dan's Super Values or supermarkets. I forget what they are. I'm ambivalent. They're all the same to me. I like cash-wise because of the big natural food part. That's where you can get your exotic grains and stuff that I like to cook with sometimes. The Dan's usually has a little bit better fruit and vegetables, so kind of horse apiece. One advantage of the cash-wise is right in the same kind of shopping area. There's an office supply store, which I also walked to. It is a chain. I don't remember if it's an Office Max. I think it's an Office Max, or else it's an Office Depot. It's not a Staples. The Staples is over by the Dan's. But anyway, it's somewhere where you can get... They have a different selection from some of the other big chain office supply stores, so that's kind of neat. And it's not like I get to an office supply store that often anyway. So, yeah, it was fun. Probably spent too much money there, but whatever. And I really have nothing intelligent to add to that. I have apparently started my car. Apparently still sitting there, so either somebody's coming along behind me or I'm just like arranging myself after starting the car. I have no clue what's going on. No clues. Okay, we're getting out. Anyway, this getting in and out of this shopping center is not super fun, but it works. There's a Big Lots there too, whatever that is. I know I bought the towels that are in my bathroom at Big Lots once, but that's all I really know about it. So, yeah, if you're interested in fountain pens, not much to be had here in Bismarck. I used to be able to buy like Parker Quink at a couple of the big box office supply stores, but even that's getting harder and harder to find. Yeah. Now, I'll tell you what is going to happen next. I'm going to take you out to United Tribes Technical College. That's, if you're hearing the words United Tribes, obviously that has to do with Native Americans. Excuse me. Apparently all the tribes together kind of run it. I don't remember anymore exactly the governing structure of this place. It's not on any particular reservation, but I guess a lot of tribes work together. Now there are tribal schools at, I think every reservation in North Dakota has one. I have worked for one of them. I've been on the campus of two others. I spent a few days actually at the one in Belcourt, not working for them, but working for the state, kind of. I spent a few days at United Tribes. So I'm going to take you out to United Tribes. United Tribes has got a unique campus compared to the others. The others have fairly modern buildings that have been really updated or just totally built from scratch, brand new. United Tribes does not. There are one or two nice new buildings on the campus, but the buildings at United Tribes are very old. I mean, when I say old, you'll see. 1800s old. I guess it was a fort, so some kind of military thing, and it isn't any longer. And I was going to look up the history behind it, but I forgot. And I know I'm not going to say I don't care, because I am kind of curious right now, but it's now 10:20 at night, so I'm kind of losing interest in doing all that kind of work. Anyway, they actually was also used as a POW camp for Japanese soldiers during the Second World War. And I am told, I wasn't ever shown any, but I am told that you can find Japanese graffiti in some of the buildings that they've just kind of left as a historical thing. These are old buildings that probably do not meet ADA compliance at all, because that wasn't a thing back then. But you can get around that in several ways. One of the ways you can get around it is if you don't do any major renovation. Another way is nobody complains and turns you in. And then there's sometimes some conflict about historical value. I don't know the whole story at United Tribes. It could be because it's a tribal college that there are some different laws working there too. I just don't know. I do know that some of the places I worked are just like, holy cow, definitely talking 1800s here. Yes, they had wiring, but not level floors, very narrow hallways, doorways that I had to duck to go through them, hallways where I had to walk through them kind of crouched. Very different kind of environment. Cool, very cool, but very different. It's as far as degrees, they offer, there's some education degrees offered there. So they do have some 4-year programs. The education is one of them. I'm trying to remember what all the education programs are. I know elementary education is one of them. I want to say they offer like a science education or a math education, maybe both. I've worked with these programs at several of the tribal colleges, so they're all running together right now. But anyway, they offer some education degrees anyway. So I think that's good. And let me tell you why. Oh, this is Bismarck Airport here. I've never used it. One of the things that tribal high schools and elementary schools struggle with is finding teachers. An even bigger one they struggle with is retaining teachers. Now, I have taught in one tribal high school in North Dakota. It's a very different environment. There are some different dynamics going on at a tribal high school that you actually do see them at other high schools, just not to the degree. And some people have a very hard time handling it. I need to be careful here because now we're talking my profession and some personal stuff. But yeah, but it's no secret that they struggle with retention. People who aren't familiar with the tribal culture or who just got their heads stuck in their asses about their own culture maybe don't adapt well to it. So they'll work here. We're turning into UTTC here, United Tribes Technical College. They just don't know how to deal with it. And that's fine. I think sometimes we throw teachers into these schools and just say, sink or swim, dude. And they're just not ready. They need a lot more mentoring, and they could find a way to make it work. This is housing, obviously modern housing. And I think these tribal schools, because they're just like every other high school in North Dakota, they don't work real well with new teachers. They just kind of let them figure it out on their own. And there's a bit more to figure out if it's a culture you're not used to. Okay, so the brick building there is one of the old 1800s type buildings. Some of these, and this is one of them, have really cool front porches, which I love that. I absolutely love that. In fact, I love this campus. I would love to come back to this campus in the summer. I think those porches look so cool. And, they're beautiful buildings. They do a powwow here every year, which I need to get to. I have not been to one yet, so I should get to it. But yeah, these are neat buildings. The professors are usually have their offices in the top. Then there's different offices and classrooms on the main floors and in the basements. You won't see it on this turnaround campus, but there is a very modern science building. There's also a school on this campus. I can't remember if it goes to 8th grade or if it only goes to 6th grade, but it's not a full K-12 school. But the point is, it's a school, and they, it's the teachers in their teacher education programs get some time there to learn about teaching. It's a lot of the employees and students here have a non-traditional college lifestyle, let's say, where maybe they're older, they have children, and they're trying to better their lives and get an education. So daycare and education in a school are important reasons why they come here. It's kind of a residential campus. So I think there are a lot of good things going on here. Are there problems? Yes. But overall, I like the idea that they're mostly Native American instructors here. Not all, but mostly. Because that's saying, hey, look, Native American includes college educated. Because there's a certain segment of that population, and I'll admit it's right here in my own high school, we're not Native American, that is anti-education. So, yeah, I like it. Somewhere in this open area I've been going through right here is where they do the powwow, but I don't remember exactly where. But anyway, neat campus. Very neat campus. And I'm headed back out to the highway, and I'm going to head home. But I really wanted you to see this part of Bismarck. And United Tribes Technical College is one of those things a lot of visitors to Bismarck just never see. The whole tribal college thing, I think, is a very worthy endeavor. I want to see that encouraged. Yes, you could spend your time focusing on what problems there are with the tribal colleges, but let's talk about some of our non-tribal colleges, like, pick one at random that's near me, Dickinson, and the whole diploma scandal that went on there. So, yeah, there are problems at universities and colleges in this state. So, the nice thing with these is they're focusing on meeting the needs of a specific population, helping them to find employment, to learn job skills, to further their education so they can better themselves. Kind of a pull yourself up by your bootstraps type of thing. And they're feeding the needs of their communities. Their communities need teachers. If you're from the area, you're more likely to stay. One of the things I find here in North Dakota in general, this is not just a reservation thing. People come here and they're like, oh my God, I can't take it. Because it's too rural for them. They're just not used to that small of a town. Or they come, even from Bismarck or Fargo or Dickinson, and they're like, it is so small out here in this town. It's so far to anything. And they just can't take it. So people from the area are more likely to stay. And that's what we're finding in my own school with teachers. Well, same thing on the reservations. People from the reservation are more likely to be able to handle living there and teaching there, and thus more likely to stay. Now, yes, I do worry a bit about inbreeding, and I don't mean in the sexual sense. I mean inbreeding in terms of you're getting all the same kind of people from the same area, and nothing changes because you're all the same. Yes, that's a danger. But at the same time, if you can't find teachers, what are you going to do? You need them. So that's why I think this is a good thing. You might notice some jumping in the video too, which getting off topic again, but who cares? The reason you're seeing some jumping is I have had some issues with the dash cam. basically if it sits for a while, then the video comes out corrupted. Now I think I've figured out how to fix that. I'll find out with my next set of driving videos, but anyway, that's what was going on here. The dates are actually right, the dates and times this time, but not the videos. Every single one was corrupted. So I have to get it to compile, I have to chop like the first second off of each clip, and the clips are like 10 minutes long. And this is October the 8th. I want to say it was the next week after this that I recorded my video where I went down to Needles Highway, but I don't remember for sure. Needles, of course, North Dakota, and this is central North Dakota, so it's even further along. We're a little colder than South Dakota, and we start our seasons a little earlier, and so it looked about like this in Needles a week or two later. Alright, I need to pause. I mentioned in a few of my videos about retirement and where would I like to end up. I've known a few teachers to retire to Bismarck. Bismarck does offer a lot of amenities. I mean, I don't care for the shopping, but it's definitely a lot more selection in the shopping than I have. Socially in Bismarck, there's a lot more available. Easier to make friends. More places to eat, more things to do. A lot more traffic. A lot larger, but yeah, definitely some advantages to it. Now, I do like living in a small town. I like the peace and quiet, but if I drive the back streets of Bismarck, it's not that different in a residential area from where I live now. I think the main difference is that there's this out there. By the way, on the right, you can't see it, but the Kirkwood Mall, I think. No, sorry, we're not to the Kirkwood Mall yet. But anyway, yes, there's a mall in Bismarck. Several. Kirkwood is the only really mall-y type mall. The rest are more smalls, but anywho, so yeah, there's these high traffic shopping areas, but yeah, the residential areas feel just like in my town. There, that's the Kirkwood Mall on the right. I don't know. It's more expensive to live here, but there's more amenities, and as you get older, you're going to need more services possibly, and I see that as an advantage of the city. Won't know anybody moving there, but again, a lot of people are moving there, so you'll be able to find your peeps. So that's another option for me to think about when I get close to retirement. I have already said that as far as teaching there, I think I'd be making too big of a sacrifice. Financially, socially, and as far as my teaching, I have a lot more freedom in a small school to teach. If you have got the wrong administrator in a small school, that can be hell. I have to tell you about that sometime too. Your larger towns, though, can attract your better teachers because your larger towns can be more selective and they can say, yeah, we want this one, not this one. Whereas in your small towns, it's like, hey, somebody applied for the job, hire them. To your right, there's a zoo back there somewhere that I have honestly never visited now that I'm watching this footage. Yeah, I've never visited that. That's something I need to rectify. To your left is kind of a strange sort of shopping area. There's a jewelry store kind of randomly over there. And then there's a kind of wealthy housing development. It was flooded not too long ago, but very wealthy. I drove through it and it's like, holy cow. Because the houses there are in a totally different order from the houses where I live. A lot of McMansions, but not the not just the cheesy McMansions, some really nice McMansions, well-built McMansions with a lot of detail work. Going over the Missouri River here, this, I'm not going to, you can kind of see the water there. I'm not going to give you a good view of it in this video, but, there's sandbars out there, but people go boating out there. There's actually a restaurant that's on a riverboat there. Now, I wish it was one of the cute old-fashioned riverboats. It's not. It's just a boat, but it's still cool to have a restaurant on a riverboat, even if it doesn't have a paddle wheel. And actually, historically, there used to be a lot of riverboat traffic up and down the Missouri River. Washburn, which I took you through 2 videos ago, I've seen photographs, old photographs of the riverboats pulled up on shore for the winter. So these were not paddle boats like on the Mississippi River. These were much smaller, and they were designed to be to work in very shallow water. But yeah, riverboats used to be a thing right here in North Dakota. With the rail and improved roads, of course, riverboats are gone, except for the fake riverboat that's a restaurant. And there's a riverboat park. Actually, if I wouldn't have turned toward 83, I would have just continued down Highway 1804. I would have taken you to the riverboat park. We would have ended up in it. Now I kind of wish I would have done that instead of what I did. It's kind of a cool park. I ended up there a number of years ago, kind of by accident. And you're saying, oh, how's that happen? Here's how. You land in Rapid City close to midnight. You just assume you'll be able to find a motel room. Land, I mean fly in from Pennsylvania on an airplane. But the motels you're finding in Rapid City have no vacancies. So then you call a motel in Wall, North Dakota, which is on the way to where you're headed because you're going to be doing some stuff in Bismarck. And they say, yeah, we've got rooms. You say, well, can you save one for me? And they say, sure. But then you get there and they're like, well, yeah, when you didn't show up right away, we just assumed you weren't coming, so we gave it to somebody else. Ah! I gave you my credit card number and everything, you idiots. So, of course, all the other motel rooms in Wall are full, so you drive on. Eventually, you're in the country and you just decide to sleep in your car, which is horrible. And if you ever tried sleeping in my car, you'd know why. And especially because I would wake up just sweating and like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get caught here and I'll get arrested. And, those weird in the middle of the night type thoughts that you have that you wouldn't have when you're being more rational. And you drive on a little bit further and you realize you're tired and you got to sleep again. So I came up Highway 1804 on the east side of the Missouri River. Somewhere, I don't recall exactly where I crossed it, but I ended up coming up upon the riverboat park. Kind of by surprise. And anyway, there was no moral to that story. I don't even know why I told it. Probably because it's now 10:37 at night, and I don't have a filter this late. And watch, I'll start swearing and saying horrible things in a minute. But we're coming into Mandan now, so that tells me we're almost done. Because I wanted to end at Mandan. Mandan is across the river from Bismarck. Sometimes they're called the Twin Cities. Mandan is kind of like Bismarck's poorer cousin. I actually like walking Mandan's downtown a little better than Bismarck's. It's not as pretty, but there are some fun businesses. There's one business, and I won't tell you which one, in Mandan I absolutely will never shop at again because the owner is an asshole. When I've mentioned rude owners in small towns think they can get away with being rude, that's an example. Apparently because he learned I was a teacher, apparently I'm a Democrat trying to brainwash my students into being Democrats, and homosexuals because I am in favor of Common Core. And he had a whole bunch of stuff to go with it. He got into some religious stuff. And it's just one of those, holy cow, you're just an idiot. And yeah, so I won't go back there, but I also try not to name and shame businesses because I'm assuming the guy's the owner, but it could be he was just a bad worker there. I don't know. I do know that he's the owner. I take that back. But yeah, I'll never shop there again because he's the owner. He's a jerk. But yeah, so I just try not to name and shame. Could have been he was having a bad day. Could be because the whole, why is he asking me about Common Core? Well, he'd started out friendly and he found out I was a teacher, and so I said, then he asked me what I thought of Common Core, and I told him, and yeah, it was the wrong thing to say. And his friend that was in the business was taking his side. It's just like, holy cow, you really don't want to keep business, do you, buddy? And yeah, that's enough detail in that story, because if I get more specific, you'll probably be able to pick out which of these businesses along here it is that I'm talking about. Mandan has cleaned up a bit, literally and figuratively. It used to be one side of the street, the side on your left-hand side, there was a big diesel spill there, a lot of railroad garbage. They had to clean up some serious pollution over there. I think it's all cleaned up now. On the right side, downtown Mandan used to have, let's just say, some interesting bars where certain employees wore very little clothing, and most of that's been cleaned off the street. Towns don't like to have that kind of stuff on their main street. It doesn't attract families. It's not a wholesome image. Now, I'm a little uncomfortable with regulating that, but I can see why a town would want to at the same time. So, that's in one of those gray areas for me where I'm not 100% sure where I stand on. I know I don't go to those types of businesses. Heck, I don't even go to bars that don't have scantily clad people. But I don't go to bars in general. But at the same time, can't the bar owner decide how they run their business? So, yeah, I haven't made up my mind on that topic. You can see with the trees here, this is kind of a nice part. Yeah, that was most of Main Street, Mandan. I think there's a library in that building to your left. There used to be a grocery store to your right, but I can't remember if it's still open or if it closed. But anyway, yeah, we're basically through Mandan. I'm going to be turning south on Highway 6 here pretty quick. And I will leave you once we get out of Mandan city limits. But, yeah, I just wanted you to see that North Dakota does have some civilization. Most of the driving videos you have seen with me have been me driving around unpaved roads, or else paved roads with nobody on them. So I thought this examination of Bismarck and Mandan was worth it. Now, honestly, although I drove over from Beulah to do some shopping in Bismarck, I didn't do most of it because I hate shopping. That's usually what happens to me, is I will hit like half the stores I plan on hitting because I've had enough. Cashwise Food and the office supply store, and I'd had enough. And yeah, I needed to buy new shoes and a couple other things that I didn't buy. So just like, yeah, no, had enough, want to go home. And so it's now 3:55 my time. Their time it was 4:55 because they're in Central Time. And yeah, I'd had enough. I wanted to go home. So off I go. We're crossing here a kind of a large switch yard. You can't see it, but that's what we're going over. And then we're getting into a neighborhood of Mandan that seems like this neighborhood floods sometimes. I can't really remember for sure. There's some odd kinds of houses in this neighborhood, and there's a golf course in this neighborhood. When I say odd kinds of houses, like there's one house, I don't know if we've passed it yet. It's on your left if we see it, that are sort of buried underground, which I think is actually a good idea. There it is. It's just the way it's done is sort of different from how I think it should be done. It just looks like a stunted house instead of a house that's built with the ground in mind. I would love to kind of bury a house in the ground and use the ground as insulation and such. In fact, if you ever visit Granville, North Dakota, Their high school is semi-underground. And I want to say Ekalaka, Montana is semi-underground too. I will be taking to Ekalaka, Montana one of these days. Granville, that's open to question because there's various reasons. There's really no reason for me to go back up there. Personal reasons. Anyway, we've left Mandan. We will be passing the Mandan Airport, which isn't much. It's locally owned airplanes, basically. And actually, as I continue on Highway 6 here, we will cross over the DAPL, the pipeline. The part that we'll cross over, not in today's video, this will be in a future video, has already been dug up and the pipeline buried. And as I record this, I believe they're going to, and I'm recording this on March 19th, I believe they will be opening the DAPL pipeline tomorrow. So protests or no, that'll be open. I know I did not go down to see the protests on this trip. I wasn't sure what I'd end up with, and frankly, I drive an old car, and I get worried about it breaking down. I can just imagine the police seeing an old car and judging me and saying, "Oh, you're one of the protesters." Well, no, I just was curious. But you're driving in an old car, so you must be, yeah. I've actually had a little trouble in a few places because of my old car. I just look like I'm disreputable sometimes. Or my ragged coat that I wear in the winter. That's got me in some trouble too. So, stories for another time. I'm down to mere seconds left in this video. So, I'll bid you adieu. And we'll pick you up right around here next time. We'll take you through Flasher and Carson and Mott. I don't know how much of those, but yeah, something. So, we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.